This is TWiT.
You going there, huh?
I'm not going very far.
Tell us about the OpenAI that isn't.
Yes. We'd love to not talk about AI. And so I've linked to a TechCrunch article. And the headline is Sam Altman, OpenAI has been on the wrong side of history concerning open source. And this is actually a summary of a Reddit AMA with the OpenAI team. So one of the interesting, it's the internet. So you can get some very off the wall questions and some crazy out there stuff. But when you do have especially high profile people doing AMAs, you got people that aren't afraid to ask the hard questions. Yeah. And it's interesting to see what the responses are. So the article goes into a lot of different stuff out of the AMA, and I am neither here nor there on OpenAI, so I don't really want to dive into all of that. But I did think that the section about the open source strategy was interesting. Altman specifically is quoted as saying, not everyone at OpenAI shares his view that they need to figure out a different, meaning more open source strategy. And he does admit that it's not his current, or it's not the OpenAI's current highest priority, but he's saying that as they continue to produce better models, they're going to look at open sourcing some of the previous models as they're no longer making as much money off of them. That was my editorialness. Kevin Well, the OpenAI's chief product officer, also replied to that question thread and said that they're considering open sourcing older models that aren't state of the art anymore. And he said they're definitely going to think about doing more of that. But neither Sam Altman nor Kevin Whale went into greater detail on that. So, it's a company that's got open in the name, so, but that seems to be about as close to open source as they're willing to get. But it is interesting to see what other activity, the market pressures and things like DeepSeek and China's AI development and stuff. There's a lot of tension, and it's interesting to see how openness either does or does not play into all of these relationships out there.
Yeah. So the folks at OpenAI are special people. That's a nonprofit company, right? By their government filing, at least, that's a nonprofit.
Well, part of it is.
It is a nonprofit by their government filings. They are attempting to take it from a nonprofit to a for-profit business, which is insane to me because that is a complete no-no. I cannot comprehend how any lawyer signed off on them ever attempting to do that. That is not a thing that you do. That's a thing. When people actually do that, that's the thing you go to jail for, right? Like anyway.
Treasury Department standing right there waiting.
I guess. Well, it's not necessarily the Treasury Department. It's going to be like the IRS and the Federal Trade Commission, places like that. Because that's just not the way. That's not the way business law and nonprofit law works in the United States. It's also, I don't know if you remember this. That is a place that had back in, I think it was September. They made the news because several people left on their leadership board, and come to find out, it was like the I hate to say the good guys because it's not a black and white issue, but it was the people that were saying, hey, let's be a little bit more careful about this thing. Those are the ones that left.
Or got pushed out.
Right. Which version of the story you read, yeah. They've got open right in the name of OpenAI, and they are not at all one of the actual open source AI providers. they're talking about spending hundreds of billions of dollars, and the Chinese DeepSeek comes out and like, oh yeah, we did this on a shoestring, $5 million, and we got this done. Now, to be fair, in the comparison, the thing that they built is equivalent to the thing that OpenAI built for $10 to $20 million, right? So it's not quite as out of balance as it seems, but it is still hilarious to me. It is still hilarious to me that DeepSeek actually uses the MIT license and is closer to an open source AI than what the nonprofit called OpenAI is willing to push out. It's just, now according to OSI, I asked Phipps about this, because OSI has their definition now of what an open source AI actually is, because it's kind of complicated. And the thing that is missing from what DeepSeek pushed out is that they do not have enough data. They don't have enough information out there about how they trained the thing. And so that's actually a part of what OSI considers to be an open source AI, is you have to also either give people the exact training data, or give people the details on what that training data was. Because in some cases of AI, your training data is going to be things that you just, like maybe even by law, you can't share publicly, right? So like, what if your training data has medical information in it? You train your AI because you want to do a medical AI. You train your AI on medical information. Well, that stuff is, protected to the moon and back. You cannot share that. So
even if you anonymize it.
Well, I mean, you could make the argument that anonymizing it is training the AI, right? But the actual data itself, there's just no way to share it legally. So there's kind of a allowance for that in OSI's definition of an open AI. That is, if you don't give the world the actual data, essentially you have to give them enough of the recipe that you could replicate that data. You could, do the same survey over medical data and put the same equivalent stuff into it. And yeah, except for that, DeepSeek is open, right? It's almost what OSI considers an open source AI, and it's literally out under the MIT license. So it's just hilarious to me. It's quite fun.
Oh, well, we do live in interesting times.
Oh yes, very much so. I guess I'm glad to see Sam Altman come out and say that he realizes that they're on the wrong side of that, but I'm not exactly holding my breath that they're going to actually make meaningful changes.
Yeah,
they've not necessarily proved themselves to be the best players in that particular space.
Hey, it's Leo Laporte. I hope you've enjoyed this little clip from our programming at twit.tv. For more, visit our website, twit.tv, or subscribe in your favorite podcast client. There's also a link somewhere down there.